What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another Pound for Pound ATL. Joined as always by my main man, Jonathan. Uh, we're back at it again with everybody's favorite
We
game
are.
of trade, cut, and keep. But before we get into that, uh, I don't know. Should I ask you how you're doing again? I mean, we did just record another video. So, do we try to pretend? I mean, I'm wearing the same shirt. You're wearing the same shirt.
I mean,
So,
I don't know what I don't know what video you're talking about.
yes.
It's my first one today. We haven't recorded anything
Nothing.
else. So I'm just gonna say I'm doing
Oh,
great,
good. I'm
man.
glad
This
to hear
Monday,
it.
this Monday that we're recording this on. No, it's been a good day, so we're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. And y'all seem to really enjoy that the offensive version of trade cut keep. We've had like 18 or so, maybe even 20 or so responses. Go back to that video and vote, on your responses, like whether you would trade cut or keep. Because if we get enough participation in there, would like to compare contrast y'all's trade cut with ours, trade cut keeps. And same thing, I'm
Absolutely.
gonna have another form under this video. Look in the bio. There'll be a link. Same deal. Go vote and let us know who you would trade, cut, and keep. So, without much further ado, let's just kind of jump into it.
Absolutely.
Right off the rip. We're just gonna like go right at the heart of the thing, right? Grady
All right.
Jarrett. That's who I got. Okay. That's first up. Trade, cutting.
Cut his sorry butt. Get him out of
Bam,
here.
man. No, he's the right now. Realistically, he's the face of the franchise. There's
Absolutely.
really no other way to say it. I mean, he's the one of the most long tenured players we have on this roster. You don't use a O lineman as the face of the franchise, so until London or Pitts or Algier or Ebiketie or whoever really uh, come into their own. Right now, it's definitely Grady Jarrett, and I can't see trading him or cutting him or anything else. I think you need a face of the guy, and so I'm gonna say keep. That's what I'm thinking.
Man, that is a bold take.
Bold move, huh?
Bold move. No, absolutely. Like this guy, we technically, if we had been like, we're not even going to talk about Grady Jarrett because we all know we're going to. First of all, we just signed him to a deal. So
Right.
even if we, for some hypothetical reason, thought let's get him out of here, yeah, that's no, it's not happening. So, but yeah, this guy. If there's one guy, only one that you could say we for sure will not be getting rid of, it is Grady
Yeah,
Jarrett. That guy's not going
for
nowhere.
sure, for sure. So yeah,
Yeah.
we both agree keeping is the way to go with Grady Jarrett. All right, next up, promising second year. Kind of got cut short a little bit with injury, but and you could definitely felt when his presence went out, and that's Taquan Graham. He's a guy I am really excited for,
Yes.
and so that probably tips my hand. I'm keeping Taquan Graham because what I did see for him last year was a very promising young defensive tackle who, at bare minimum, was a force in the run game, but was also showing some stuff as far as the pass game went. And like I said, you really felt like when he went down, that line suffered quite a bit. What are your thoughts
Yep.
on Graham?
I love him. Like I said, when we saw earlier, before his injury, when we saw him and Grady Jarrett, that was the picture of what I want. Whether it's with Graham or hopefully it's with Graham because I'm just going to say I want to keep him.
Right, right, right.
But whether it's with Graham or with Draymond Jones or whoever we end up bringing in free agency and or the draft, uh, like if we can have it so that Taquan Graham is there and these other guys, so we can take Jared out, let him get a breather, and have Graham and Jones, and then this
Mm-hmm.
just mix and match so that you don't have quite the fall off
Right.
if somebody's not in there. Then that's what I'm looking for. But this guy absolutely should be a part of the mix. I mean, he is going to be. We're not. I don't think that he's done anything close to giving us a reason to cut him.
Uh-uh.
So I think he will be there. Um, and there's no reason why we should be getting rid of him.
No,
he's not a foundational piece. I don't
no, but
think.
he's a strong rotational piece. Strong
Very
rotational piece.
very very strong rotational piece.
Now we're going to start getting into some murky waters. Those first two right off the rip, I felt like were pretty
Mm-hmm.
easy, you know. But now we get into a guy like Timmy Horn, undrafted, free agent that we picked up. Um, Rookie guy obviously isn't costing you money like much of anything. Limited snaps, showed some promise.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, he showed enough to keep him and let him try to develop. Uh, you need guys like this in a deep rotation. So as of right now, I say keep him. There's not a ton to say about him because he didn't get a ton of playing time.
Yeah, I think this is a guy that you hope that with Nielsen coming in, maybe he can develop him a little bit more. And just, for one, the guy's coming in, this will be his first full season
Right.
in, as an NFL player without having to worry about the combine potentially, without having to worry about pro days, without having to worry about the draft, without having to worry about this and that and the other. He can focus solely on being the best pro football player he can be. So you hope that he gets some. I'm going to say, I'm going to say keep again,
Okay.
like you said, because this guy is, comparatively speaking, the guy's making pennies
Right. Hmm.
as a pro player. Cutting him's not going to get you anything, and he might just turn into, a really good rotational piece down the road.
That's kind of what I feel. Same way here. All
Yeah,
right.
he's very much a developmental player.
Right. Now, we're going to get into like a handful of guys who are interesting. So this could go many different ways. Abdullah Anderson. Anderson is another like rotational piece guy on the D line. Unfortunately, our D line was full of these guys because of injuries and the cheap money that we had to deal with. But I'm I'm gonna say like he played well. He played well enough to bring back. But I'll say it like this, and not necessarily my like full evaluation of Abdullah Anderson, but if he is standing in the way of signing someone, like a Draymond Jones or Tomlinson or whatever, then I'm gonna say cut him. And all like part of me says that because like you can't keep everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like the first guy that we really run across that I'm like, I'm not moved one way or the other if he's back or not.
Yeah. So I'm going to say we could probably say this about a lot of the guys that we're going to talk about along the defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, is we're not going to cut them just outright. Like they're not going to be cut before training camp. I think what's going to happen is guys like Abdullah Anderson, Timmy Horn, and some of the other guys we're going to talk about are going to be guys that will be brought back as part of the initial 90-man
Right.
training camp
It
roster.
may not.
Uh, and then they're going to have to, they're going to have to prove that they belong, that they deserve to belong on this team. And this guy squarely falls into that category, which is uh, I did see flashes
Mm-hmm.
of this guy. Against the Cardinals, guy had like 6 total tackles. He had against the Saints and the Ravens, he had two solo tackles each game, with like another 6 or 8 tackles total.
Right.
So like the guy has shown as the season went along, especially as the season went along, he got more and more because of injuries. But he absolutely like showed some improvement as the season went along, and I think he comes back at the very minimum to fight it out for kind of the bottom of the rotation, unless he completely shows out.
Right.
Like if he comes in and just blows doors on it, then that's one thing. But I think he's going to be a guy like Timmy Horn that may end up being like practice squad guys
Mm-hmm.
after the fact, but I
So
don't think they get cut before training camp.
okay, so are you still just label him as a cut guy, even if it's like training camp? Is that what you're
Yeah, I mean I think this is a guy that we can cut.
keep?
Like even it can cut.
Okay, cut. Gotcha.
Yeah, I think he's a guy who we can cut
Mhm.
because I don't think he's necessarily going to. I think he would be a guy that we could get back on the practice squad if
Right.
that's what we
Yep.
want.
And unfortunately, the same, almost like verbatim, the same thing with Jalen Dalton. He's another guy that I think if we make enough upgrades in on the defensive line, that he's a guy who is at like bottom end of the rotation or like practice squad, depending on what we do. So, same deal. He had flashes, but like how much does that do? You know, the playing time due to injuries to guys like Vincent Taylor and Taquan Graham and those guys. Is he good enough to beat out a uh, Dermont Jones or a Tomlinson or have like
No,
right? You see what I'm
no,
saying? So for me,
yeah,
like
no.
that cut may come. That's a good you phrased that and framed that really well. That cut may come before the final 53 is set, but I think Jalen Dalton ultimately ends up getting cut. At least that's what I'm saying. You feel the same way, or do you think it should be something different?
I unless they show something to the new defensive regime, yeah, I don't think there's necessarily anything that screams like we got to bring this guy back.
Right. Yep.
Again, I think he's a camp body at the very minimum. Uh, my hope would be that this guy is a bubble guy
Mm-hmm.
come time to make cuts.
Right.
Right. Because I would love for this guy to be a bubble guy, which that lets me know like we got a lot more talent in front of him.
Right. Uh, Now,
But I'm going to say he's definitely a guy that we could cut.
right. I kind of feel again the same way. These three guys, unfortunately, all kind of fall into the same depth. But Matt Dickerson is our next defensive lineman, rotational piece guy. Because I am not very like keen at the Madden deal, I can't figure out how to get him out of my plays in favor of Grady Jarrett. But Dickerson, as far as Madden is concerned, is a decent player and gets me a lot of pressures and things of that nature. But um, but I'm gonna say he's a cut guy, possibly, or you could even say a trade guy maybe. I don't think he's a keep guy. If somebody calls and they have, somebody's willing to give you a fifth, sixth round for him, seventh round for him, even if it's a seventh round next year. I'll say like he played well and has had decent production for a bottom tier rotational kind of guy, and that's really what he is.
Yeah, and I think like you said, unfortunately, somewhat due to injuries, but also just due to the general financial state of the team. Last year, like D line was full of these
Oh
guys.
yeah, yeah.
So the hope is now you have money. Now
Mm-hmm.
you have, you bring in new defensive guys and they got different eyes and hopefully we're bringing in, and we got a GM whose specialty was,
Pro
pro
personnel, yep.
personnel.
Mm-hmm.
So the hope is that a lot of these guys that were counted on for a lot of snaps towards the end of the year, if they are brought back, it's because they made the leap that we would hope they would make.
Right.
And this is another guy kind of in the same boat that, if he makes a leap, if he does that, then yeah, sure, I wouldn't mind him back on the team, but there's just not anything there that I'm like, we have to keep this guy.
Yeah.
So absolutely, if somebody comes and says, hey, we'll give you a seventh, maybe a
All
sixth
right. So you're
for
going.
this guy,
All right.
I would absolutely take it.
All right. So we'll consider him to be our first trade candidate, like, because I'm pretty sure he'd be next to nothing to bring back. But now it's going to be an
Yeah.
interesting case here. We move into a guy who technically isn't going to be isn't on our roster next year. So instead of necessarily trade, cut, keep, the keep part would be re-signing, the cut part would be letting him walk, and the trade part would be, I don't know. I don't think the trade part applies to him. Uh, but it's Lorenzo Carter.
Yep.
Lorenzo Carter, you brought him in on a 2-year deal, but the second year was avoided, and it was built that way for money purposes. So he knew that he was going to be a free agent after the end of this year. Now you have a different defensive mind coming in to run the defense. I don't know if he views Lorenzo Carter the same way. For the right price, I would like to keep Lorenzo Carter. I think he is a
Yes.
versatile player who can do quite a bit. He can be a rotational pass rush guy. Now, if he's over here wanting like top tier money, he will quickly get changed to cut. If he, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? But if he's not wanting if he's fine understanding that he's a rotational player, then I would very much like to keep Lorenzo Carter. What are your thoughts on that?
In the same boat.
Same boat.
I like the guy's fire.
Mm-hmm.
Like he kind of had, seems like a guy that has that, no pun intended, has that dog in him.
Right.
Coming from Georgia, but at the guy seemed to have a real passion. Uh, he made big plays for us
Right.
this past year, like some
Yeah.
big plays. So I would love to have this guy be part of the rotation. And he is not a frontline guy. He is not your, or at least to this point, he hasn't shown that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, you know, can he be that guy? Who knows? But so far, whether it's in New York or it's in Atlanta, he hasn't shown to be like the frontline guy.
Right.
He's shown to be a guy that you bring in obvious pass rushing situations, because he actually does not, he's not too bad when it comes to dropping back into
Yeah.
coverage.
No. Yeah. He's definitely not.
Um, and so he can drop back if necessary. He does rush the passer pretty well, but the production as far as the overall numbers, as far he basically had the same amount of sacks this year as he did the previous year with the Giants.
Mm-hmm. So he's a five,
So
6 sack guy on good
yeah,
years, 7, maybe 8 if you have like a standout on the other side of the line. I think he could be part of your rush, not the
yeah.
main focus of your rush.
Like if we absolutely go out and get a Tomlinson, a Draymond Jones, which I think we're gonna get one of those guys. I think we're gonna try to do at least we're gonna do our best.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna try to get, if he's still available, we're gonna try to get Tomlinson, or we're gonna try to get Jones. Just depends on what they like,
Right.
and what they want. But I think we're gonna try to bring in one of those guys, along with, it's kind of a jumping the gun here a little bit, but it seems like that's all but, which means it probably won't happen, but it's all but a foregone conclusion that we're going to be bringing in Jesse Bates.
Well, that's all the
Uh,
talking heads think that that's what we're going to be doing.
I
So
mean,
that's
the
a
guy
lot
had
of
dinner with
smoke.
with Kyle Pitts, man.
Yep. That's
But
right.
they
That's all
also
it
say
takes.
there's also a lot of smoke with Lamar Jackson. And
Right. Well,
honestly, I
yeah.
don't
We'll see
think
how
that's
all
going to
that
happen.
rolls. Now.
But at the end of the day, I agree with you. If he's amenable to coming back at a decent price, I'm all for keeping Lorenzo
Right.
Carter. But if he's got, somehow believes that, like, I am him, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. He's not gonna.
and he's like, I'm not even sure but I want, like, I don't know, 17, 18 million a year. Like,
No, dog.
you are more than welcome to go grab that somewhere
Yeah.
else, sir.
Somebody else can pay that bag. But that brings us
Yes.
to now. Here's an interesting one. We're getting into like some of the still like very young, promising talent, and that's Arnold Ebiketie, or AK-47 as he has become affectionately known around these parts. Obviously, I think you like this to me is a no-brainer. Rookie season, had 4 or 5 sacks his rookie year, something of that nature. Can you pull that up? For some reason I'm drawing a blank on that. But he was our most consistent pass rusher as a rookie. And so for me, he's definitely a keep. Like, I don't think you even entertain the idea of trading him at all or cutting him. I think you see, like, if Nielsen wants to, add bulk to him to make him a little heavier and see if he can still maintain athleticism. But at one point in time in the season, he was leading all rookies in rushing or like pressures.
Yep.
So like Arnold Ebiketie is definitely a keep for me.
Oh, he absolutely is. Let's see. He had, looks like rookie year he got two and a half.
2.5.
Yeah, two and a half
I don't know why I
sacks.
was thinking it was more than that.
I thought it was more than that, but yeah, so two and a half sacks. It doesn't really show like pressure or anything, but he was like up there, above like Trayvon
Yeah,
Walker as far as like win rates and pressure rates. And that's again, I think Ebiketie is a guy that, assuming that we fix the interior line and we're able to, get better push on the interior. I think Ebiketie is a guy who his numbers go from 2.5, probably second year. If I had to take a guess, we're probably looking at. Yeah, I don't want to set up expectations because you just never know, but anywhere from like really anywhere from like 6 to 10 sacks, I could absolutely
yeah.
see if we're getting that push up the middle. Um, and then just depends on who the quarterback is. Some guys are just tougher to take down, so he may be in position to get 2 or 3 sacks in a game and come away with none because the guy was able to
Pull out
to
of it.
muscle out of it.
Yeah,
So but this guy is not a guy. He showed me enough this year. For one, he was what it was second round guy.
yeah.
So you're not gonna unless he flat out kills somebody in the offseason. I
You're not
mean
getting rid of. You're not
maybe.
moving on. Yeah, you're.
Yeah, you're not moving on from him, and especially with a new defensive guy whose specialty is defensive line, who's shown the ability to develop pass rush with guys. I absolutely see this guy is coming back and potentially having a big season in his second year. So
Yeah, I completely agree. And what you just said there at the end with the defensive coordinator who is like shown promise of being able to develop defensive linemen has me actually kind of excited about this next guy, and that's the Adi Ogundeji, our last
hmm
year's or year four last second round pick coming into his third year of the season. Was he second? He might have been. No, he was Richie
I
Grant.
think
I think he was either fourth or fifth. Anyway, he fits more of the mold of what Nielsen is looking for, like a bigger defensive end. I think he's in like the 250, 260 range, maybe even like 265. Real good at the long arm. Um, he took kind of like a step back his sophomore year, but hey, sophomore slump's a real thing. We talk about it all the time with other players. So I'm really hoping that he bounces back this year because he was showing some real promise in his first year. So for me, he's a guy I keep because I think he could easily develop into a rotational, like a strong rotational edge setter because he was your starting defensive end in your base packages this year.
yeah.
So
Well, and the guy is in that prototypical, defensive end mold, 6'4", 268.
right,
Had two sacks. Um, let's see. Yeah, he had 2 sacks last year, which hey, that was 100% more than he had the previous year, which was one. Uh,
if we can get that kind of
so
production, he's got 4 sacks coming, baby.
hey, exactly. There you go.
Exponential
Just
growth is what I'm talking about.
yep. And then 4 to 8 to
That's what I'm
16 to
saying. Right,
32
right.
to
5 years from now,
64
he'll be
sacks in the
64
season.
sacks in a year.
Woo. But no, I know I saw and I know you saw it. There was a ton of negativity spouted towards Ogundeji throughout the season on Twitter.
Oh yeah,
Tons and tons of it. I think he's a pretty good guy. He has a problem with setting the edge sometimes. He needs to get better with that. He likes to collapse, and doesn't set the edge properly. He just gets washed out and run, on the run too often. But then, then he comes back and really sets the edge well. So he needs to have that consistency of, and maybe that comes from a recognition thing
right.
of recognizing quicker that it's a run play, so that he can, stop whatever he's doing and like, hey, let me make sure, especially if he's on the play side, making sure he sets the edge properly, to allow allow the defense to stop that run. But he does show like some really good potential, and I just want to go, one more year.
Right.
Let's let's see if this new DC and the new defensive regime, can they get something out of him the previous couldn't? Because again, the previous regime was much more, we want to uh, we want to try to do cover a lot of coverage stuff,
Yeah, it was
and we didn't
coverage,
really
and
have
it
a lot
was
of
sim pressures and creepers. So we'll see
yeah.
what this new regime has.
Yeah. So, but I honestly, I think we keep him.
Okay,
And because I think he's like one of the potential bright spots from this defense this year, outside of Grady Jarrett
right.
and maybe Arnold Ebiketie. So,
Another potential bright spot is D'Angelo Malone. Sparingly rookie season, didn't get on the field a ton. Um, I'm gonna say keep him. I'd be interested to see where he fits because he's kind of a tweener in rushing. Like he's light as far as a rusher goes. He looked well dropping into coverage, so I wonder if he can be a converted like Sam linebacker, who you send on more blitzes than you do anything else with. But he's an interesting case, and I would just like to see what this new staff would do with a D'Angelo Malone.
yeah, I mean he's not going anywhere. We just
Right.
drafted him, so
Yep.
he's in the Ebiketie that even if he had 0 sacks, which he I thought it was going to be zero. He actually had 1 sack.
Right.
But even if he had 0 sacks, unless he goes again, purposely runs into a school bus full of children, then then he might get cut. But he's a guy that, again, I saw enough from him as a rookie
Right.
that I would love to see him. He was what? Was he a fourth
He was a
round?
fourth, I believe. Yeah, he was the extra fourth round in the Julio Jones pick trade.
Yeah.
So
So
I say you
so I
keep him.
mean the guy, he wasn't he wasn't like seventh round
No,
guy. He was
you
mid draft, and he showed enough. He's got the speed. He definitely has the size for him and Ebiketie are kind of in the same boat size wise. Um, and he's a guy that could come in and especially like if we do the thing that we want to do on offense, which is pound the rock, get up a touchdown or two late in the game, and this guy just comes in and is strictly speed rush,
right. Yep.
just trying to get after the quarterback. I think this is a guy that could really excel in that particular mode. Problem was we weren't really in that position almost the
No,
whole
hardly ever.
season. So
Next down on the docket is another rookie. You're going to keep him just out of simple basis that he's a rookie, but the DC has already talked to him and talked highly of him, and that's Troy Anderson. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw a keep on him because
yeah,
he's a part of your future. I think at linebacker, he does a lot of real good things. Has real good size, straight line speed. You can send him on blitzes, things like that. By all accounts, he's a smart individual. So, and then by the end of the last year, he had supplanted Michael Walker as the uh, the other linebacker in the 4-2-5 that we ran so much of. So, um, promising future. I you keep him in my opinion. Plus, he was a second round pick.
yes,
So
second round pick. Yeah, he's a second round pick. Athletically, the guy is off the charts.
right,
He is definitely raw. He did, he had boneheaded raw rookie mistakes. But he also, at the end of the day, like he showed progress as the season went along.
mm-hmm.
Um, in the Saints game, I think that was his. No, he had 13 against the Niners. He had 13 tackles, 7 or 6 assists, and what says 6 assists and 6 solo. Either way, he's definitely a guy that you know he forced a fumble last year. He's definitely a guy that I'm intrigued with as he becomes more and more of a pro,
Right.
assuming that he has the work ethic. Nothing says that he. I can't say there's anything that points out that says he doesn't. He has the work ethic to like really hone his craft, and he can marry knowledge of the game, get that football IQ up, and marry that with his athleticism.
Yeah, all
Guy
day
could
long.
be outstanding.
Now, next guy up is Rashawn Evans. Now, he led the team in tackles. We have well documented his coverage. There were times where his run fits weren't all that great in Atlanta, but he's a guy that obviously he's not on the roster right now, technically speaking, or won't be when the new year starts. But I think if the DC sees that he could use this type of backer in his scheme, I like Rashawn Evans. I like what he brings as far as energy wise, and I still think that he could recover like some of his like former Alabama days. So I say keep him, but you might feel a little bit different, John. Again, this barring money's right. But if he
Mm-hmm.
stands in the way of bringing in like a Traymon Jones or Trey Edmonds, Traymon Jones, I don't even know who that is. Trey Edmonds. If he stands in the way of bringing in Trey Edmonds, then he can kick rocks, and I'll bring in Trey Edmonds. But let's just say Trey Edmonds is not in the cards. What are your thoughts on Rashawn Evans?
uh, I like Rashawn Evans. I think when he became the middle linebacker, the defense, while not spectacular, definitely seemed to settle in a little bit better.
Right,
And we if we look at you know a majority of the games last year, like we didn't give up over 20 points a lot,
right,
especially in the second half of the season. We gave up 19-19, we gave up 21, 17-19, 17. That's the last 6 games of the season. And before that, we gave up 24,
I mean, you only got blown
25,
out one time,
20.
and that was against the Bengals.
Yeah, and so like the defense held their own, and I think part of that is once he moved into the middle linebacker spot, uh, that defense seemed to take a step forward.
Right,
And so I really like him. I think he's a good middle linebacker. Uh, Again, if you have a chance to bring in a guy like Tremaine Edmonds, I think I would definitely go that route.
right.
But and it's what's actually surprising, I'm looking at it now. I thought he was heavier. He's like 6'2", 230.
Yeah, he
Um,
plays bigger. He's just a physical guy. When
yeah,
he comes downhill with force. He's not like a huge linebacker, but his game is coming downhill and sticking his
yep,
nose in there. His game is not necessarily coverage, which worries me depending on what they ask him to do.
right. I, I'll say this: if we can bring in Tremaine Edmonds, or because looking at this now, or a guy we talked about in a previous video, which is David Long Jr.
Hmm.
If we can bring in either one of those two guys, I think that those are the two guys we can bring in and be like, okay, Rashawn Evans, appreciate it, but you can go find
Right.
money elsewhere. Short of those two guys, I mean, yes, there's plenty of other guys out there,
Yeah.
but short of those two guys, I would say we would want to keep Rashawn Evans
Okay.
as long as the money's right. So I definitely would be down for keeping him.
Sounds good to me. All right, moving on. Moving right along to the next one guy, Michael Walker. Now, Michael Walker has yet to really find his actual footing. I thought this past year he was going to take a leap forward. Really looked that way in training camp, but he ended up giving up his starting spot to Troy Anderson by the end of the season. So he's still under contract. So I'm going to say trade him. If you can find somebody to, like, if you can't find nobody, go ahead and keep him. But if somebody's like, oh man, I'm desperate for a, you know, kind of a jack of all trades, master of none type linebacker, which is what
Mm-hmm.
Michael Walker really is. Like he's not real great at any one thing. You can drop him into coverage. You can, you know, send him on blitzes, but he doesn't really excel at any one thing. So for me, Michael Walker is a trade candidate. I'm curious to what you think there, John.
I really want I really want to like Michael Walker. Guy's got good size, really good speed. just when he's in there as middle linebacker, he just didn't work.
Right.
Which is surprising because I mean, you look at the very first game of the season against the Saints. Really, the first like couple of games of the season against the Saints and the Rams, dude looked awesome.
Right. Right.
And then it's just like something happened. He kind of fell off a cliff there. Like, and it wasn't like I mean, you look at the next three games and he's like, 9 tackles, 11 tackles, 11 tackles. He got 8 or 9 tackles a lot throughout the season. So it wasn't even necessarily like the tackle numbers, but if you actually watch the games, it was always blown assignment,
Right.
like or just getting
Bad
burned on
angles
an
or
assignment. Yeah, it's just something.
right.
So you're not gonna cut him. At the very worst, he's a potentially rotational guy. Maybe you bring him in for blitzing purposes and things like that. Maybe now, again, because we have a new defensive guy coming in, maybe they change things around and they find a better spot to put him in. Hey,
Right.
great. But I think if you can get anything for him, and somebody comes and says, "Hey, we'll give you a fourth or a fifth,"
So you're
or something
talking
like
trade
that.
too, huh? Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah,
where I'm at. I'm talking trade with him. All right,
yeah,
that pretty much covers your linebackers. I mean, you have another one in Nate Landman, who played a little bit, kind of more of an old school. Throw him out there, quick mention. I'd say like I don't think he makes the final roster, so I'm just going to call him a cut candidate. He's
yep,
your old school neck roll kind of guy, so not going to spend a ton of time on him. Moving
yep.
into the backfield, going with Jalen Hawkins. He had an up and down year. Like I was really hoping by now he would have taken a step forward. I think he just kind of is what he is. If I had to, I would cut Jalen Hawkins, especially if you were to in your first round, bring in or if like second round you get a guy like Brian Branch or Jordan Battle or even somebody like that. Jalen Hawkins never really did like find his footing in my opinion. He showed flashes, but that was about it. What's
Yeah.
your opinion on Jalen Hawkins?
Uh yeah. The like when you see those flashes from him, it looks real promising.
Yeah,
It looks real good. And then things just the consistency is
right,
just not there. So um, maybe if he comes back in a reserve role. He's not going to be a starter.
right. Because like I mean, with as much as we've
Or
been
I
attached to
I'll
Jesse
say
Bates,
I hope he's not. I hope he's not a starter.
right,
If he's a starter, unless like again, unless they can do some miracle work or something like that with the new defensive guys. But nothing he's shown so far leads me to believe. Like Richie Grant, while he has had some problems, and we'll talk about him in a minute, he's shown far more
right,
promise.
exactly.
And than Jalen Hawkins has, and it's just I if I think he's a guy that I could absolutely see getting cut.
All right, so we'll say Jalen Hawkins gets cut, especially if we sign a true center fielder like a Jesse Bates, and that would definitely make Jalen Hawkins very expendable. Next guy up is
Yes.
Richie Grant. Like you said, showed some promise, had some interceptions, forced some fumbles, made some good tackles. He's also just now getting into his like second year starting, third year in the league. I keep Richie Grant. I think he's a guy who is going to
Yeah.
continue to get better, especially if you bring in a guy like Jesse Bates and let Richie Grant roam more towards the middle of the field to down closer to the line of scrimmage. I think Richie Grant could then provide even more promise there. So my opinion is keeping Richie Grant. What do you think on Richie Grant?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna keep.
We're
Yep.
keeping him. Yeah, we're gonna keep everything you said spot on. Guy's shown enough flashes
Mm-hmm.
that yeah he makes he his second year in the league he might as well have been his first. He basically played nothing last year.
Right.
Uh, but first year starting in a what is notoriously known to be a complex defense, especially in the secondary.
Mm-hmm.
So like trying to have a guy who, for most purposes, is a rookie, yeah, it was second year, but the practical application of that defense is much different than hearing about it in the classrooms. And there were definitely times where, especially when he played a little bit closer to the line, the guys showed up in a very positive way. The deep center field stuff needs some more work,
Yeah,
but when he was down in the box and playing a little bit more like tight ends down there, and in the run game, much better showing in that respect. So bring in a guy like Jesse Bates or Jordan Poyer or
right. Any of
hell,
those.
hell even a Von Bell,
Yeah, some of those guys,
any of those guys.
and yeah, you could make Richie shine even more. All right, into the
Yep.
cornerbacks, we were looking at Casey Hayward. I thought before he got injured, he was playing well for us, but his cap savings is far more attractive to me, especially considering what is probably going to be available the first and second round in a pretty deep cornerback draft. In also like who might be available in free agent. I am cutting Casey Hayward myself. Uh,
What's his cap savings?
Cap savings is like $4 or $5 million. Which you add that to then cutting Mariota, you're talking about picking up close to another 20 million in cap space, which I could then use that to go get somebody like a James Bradbury or Jamil Dean or somebody like that, or like say you do pick up like a Christian Gonzalez or a Joey Porter in the first round, a Emmanuel Forbes in the second round to pair with AJ. I just think you could get a major upgrade on Casey Hayward myself.
Yeah, I like him. I like having the veteran presence. When he before he got injured, like secondary wasn't horrible because I think he was able to like settle guys down and do things like that. Once he left, and you basically had AJ Terrell, who's technically a vet, but
Yeah,
third year in the league. Um, the guy's not exactly grandpa out there. So you didn't have a whole lot of experience.
mm-hmm.
Um, so having him there was a benefit. But um, yeah, if we can cut him, get an extra $4 to $5 million, cut Mariota, get that $12 million,
Right,
and then add to our cap to bring in a guy like you said, whether it's James Bradbury, Byron Murphy,
right.
whoever.
Whoever, exactly.
I'd be totally down with that. And my hope is that we do enough on the defensive line in the off season
Makes
that we
that play
even if we
better.
do have a even if we do have a rookie out there on the outside with Terrell, that it makes their lives way easier.
Now, speaking of Terrell, he's our last defensive guy, or yeah, last defensive guy to talk about. No brainer, you keep Terrell. Like yeah,
Absolutely.
there's no reason like you actually, if you can, you go ahead and extend Terrell. This year and just get it done with and move on. Like I want Terrell here for years to come. I know he started off rocky, but he picked his play up and got back to what I consider to be that all pro level. And I think it's
Yeah.
with this new scheme coming in or newer scheme, whatever you want to call it, I think he is the guy that you want him to be and continue going forward. So it's an easy keep for me.
Yeah, unless that potentially this could be a really good situation for the Falcons as far as an organization because yeah he stumbled out the gate a little bit.
Right.
Now granted some of that was he had really good coverage on guys. It was just really good throws and really good catches.
Right. Some of that stuff you
You
just
know,
can't help.
you can't help. So, but this could be a situation where, hey, let's go get an extension done, and maybe we can save a little bit of money
Right.
because he had kind of a down year this year.
Get it done
Um,
early kind of deal.
right. Don't let now if his agent's like, hey, do not
And whatever
sign
you do,
anything.
don't sign nothing this year.
Don't sign nothing this year. Let's see if we can get a better year four. And then because if we do, then we're in a much better leverage position.
Right.
So but either way, for us, it's keeping him. You're going to keep him. He's as far as your secondary is concerned right now. He is your number one
Yep.
guy.
Yep.
Like he is the guy back there in that secondary. Uh, whether we're talking safeties, cornerbacks, doesn't matter. He's the
Yep.
guy. So he's coming back, foundational guy as far as cornerbacks go, and so he's not going anywhere.
Well, that pretty much I agree with all those
What about
things.
Alford? Those
Oh yeah,
guys.
D. Alford, those guys. I didn't pull up those because I was just thinking of like who we consider the starters. So I don't have like a little picture of them. We'll just run through those guys pretty quickly here because we've already bumped up over 45 minutes on this video. So, but Alford, I would bring back. I would keep Alford. He's about the only other corner that I would keep. Like Cornelius Armstrong, you could cut him. Well, Darren Hall. I forgot about Darren Hall and Isaiah Oliver. Good Lord, I forgot about half those guys. Good Lord. Okay. All right, we're just going to run them down real quick. Isaiah Oliver, definitely want to bring back. So he's a keep
Yes.
for me.
Yes.
Definitely a keep. Darren Hall, 2 years in, hasn't necessarily showed me something. So if somebody's calling to give me something for Darren Hall, I'd trade him out just because he's just been a guy so far. Like maybe he takes a step forward in year 3. But so for me, D. Alford, I'm keeping because I think he can continue to develop. Hall, I'm trading because 2 years in, he just hasn't really shown me a ton. And Isaiah Oliver, I'm definitely bringing back. I think he could be a key nickel guy. So out of those 3 guys, what you got there?
Yep, I'm in the same boat. The only guy I'll even say, like D. Alford, I want to keep him. The guy showed out, had some misses, but it is what it is. You're going to miss as a cornerback.
Oh yeah.
But at the end of the day, the guy was in position more times than not. Sometimes just bad luck. Darren Hall, same thing. Same boat as you. As he was just a guy.
Right.
I didn't see anything spectacular out of him. So if somebody comes calling and wants to give us a pick for him,
they can have
him. By all means, let's go. And Isaiah Oliver, like, other than AJ Terrell, he's like the next guy,
right?
In that secondary,
which is so funny to say that.
It is, but I think this guy really has come into his own as like the slot / safety, box safety kind of guy.
Yep.
That he's shown like the physicality that we didn't necessarily know he had.
Yeah.
And so I can see this guy coming back and being, like you said, a very good nickel guy coming in, blitzing, good against the run, and good, as long as we're not talking deep threats or anything like that, or down in the trenches, down in the box area. I think he's a really good guy, good at covering tight ends potentially and so forth. So he's definitely a guy I want to bring back. Alford, I would like to bring back, but if for some reason he doesn't make it, then it is what it is. I would really like to see him back here. And Darren Hall, really don't care one way or the other. If we keep him, then I'm kind of worried about where our secondary is at that point. But if we keep him, so what? If we cut him, so what? If somebody comes and says, "Hey, we want to give you a pick for a guy," I'll do that.
I'll take it in a heartbeat. Yep, that's right.
Take it in a heartbeat.
All right. Well, I think that's going to.
You got one more thing.
What did I forget?
Kickers are people too.
Ah, snap. Kickers are people too. And I definitely ain't gonna do a whole video dedicated on kickers.
Nope.
So, all right. Bradley Pinion, Younghoe Koo, and then Liam McCullum. Obviously, we got to answer on Liam McCullum. He just signed an extension. So we're going to keep Liam McCullum as our long snapper. Still don't know why they didn't keep Josh Harrison or Harris. But anyway, whatever. Liam McCullum did fine. No worries there. Bradley Pinion, I'll take him. I'll take him back. He did good there as far as kickoffs and punts. He did fine. I don't necessarily want Younghoe Koo kicking off. He didn't consistently put it into the end zone where you needed it. But
great. Now they may have been asking him not to do that.
Who knows? So but now kicking field goals, Koo's my man. Younghoe Koo all day long. So
had a couple misses early in the season, but rebounded and finished out the season real strong.
Yep, exactly. So I just don't think we realize as Falcon fans just how spoiled we are, going from Matt Bryant essentially to Younghoe Koo. You had some hiccups there in the middle with George, the Italian ice guy, him, and then Nick Rose. But Younghoe Koo, I'm keeping him. I'm keeping Pinion, and I'm keeping Liam McCullum.
Yep. Well, obviously, like I said, we signed him, so obviously we're keeping him. But I'm still mad to this day that we cut Prater. Like we had him on the team.
Oh yeah.
Like this was years ago. But I'm so mad about that. It's like, what are you doing cutting this guy? The guy's got a leg to kick it from the next county, and you're cutting this guy. But anyway,
So
but yeah, I'm totally on board with that. Like Pinion, I would like to bring him back
yeah,
if we can. If we find a guy that's like younger and can really kick the ball really well, then fine. But I like what we got special teams wise. Special teams was actually really
yeah,
good this
special
past
teams was
year.
very good. So
So I don't necessarily want to rock the boat there.
there you go. Well, that takes care of our trade cut keep series. I hope y'all really enjoyed that.
Yep.
Again, go in the bio, the description underneath. Follow that link, and you can also participate in your own version of trade cut keep. And depending on like what kind of engagement we get there, we may do a video talking like comparing y'all's trade cut keeps to our trade cut keeps.
Yep.
As always, y'all can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Grim1128, GRIMM1128. Jonathan.
At Jonathan M. Holder, come say hi. And by the way, if you think any of our decisions are just dumb and you want to call us out on it,
By all
hit
means.
us up in the comments and say that, and then go ahead to the forum and say like, this is how it should have
Yeah,
gone,
this
guys. Come
this
on.
is the proper way to go about it.
Absolutely.
All right, folks. We'll just gotta keep your eye on the channel. We'll be back next Tuesday with another live stream. And as always, Falcons fans, rise up.
Rise up.